was something called a betrothal. It was something called a betrothal. Basically, this is what a betrothal was. You were legally married, but you didn't get any of the benefits of marriage. So you didn't get to sleep together, you didn't get to live together, but you were legally married. And I think a betrothal is a total ripoff, okay? I'm so glad we don't have those today, right? You're married legally, but you don't get the benefits of it. There was a waiting period that they had until marriage. Now, I got to stop and I just got to observe something that we see in society, that we see in our culture, and it's this, is that waiting until marriage to have sex is totally in our culture like outdated. I mean, nobody does that. I mean, goodness, like, he's hot. Like, I like him. I mean, we've been dating for like 3 days. I mean, come on, right? I mean, come on, I swiped right, and like we met up, and it was like love at first sight. Like, it's all love, so it's all good, right? Nobody's felt this way before. And this idea that sex is only for marriage is like totally outdated. But here's the crazy thing, y'all, is that there's all this data now, and y'all know I kind of nerd out at data sometimes, and I don't have time to get into it, but all this secular data from non-Christian sources that's showing that this whole mentality and our culture's view of sex is damaging us. Like, it's damaging our soul. And without getting into all the data of it, this is what you guys got to realize, this is what we got to see, is that when God tells us no, it's not because he doesn't want to, it's not because he wants to rob us of life and joy. He tells us no because he doesn't want us to hurt ourselves. So what God doesn't say is, God's like, oh my goodness, oh man, I see all those people. I want him to be miserable and her to be upset. Oh, she likes this, so I'm going to tell her she can't do that because, he doesn't do that. God doesn't do that. So God isn't trying to keep us something to keep joy from us. He doesn't want us to hurt ourselves when he tells us no. It's like this. You ever watch a little kid, like a little 3-year-old? And the little 3-year-old's like, I want to go play with knives. You're like, no, you can't play with the knife. But it's fun. What? Because you don't like that kid. No, because you don't want him to hurt himself. Now, Joseph here had done it God's way. Like, Joseph here had trusted God. Joseph hadn't slept with Mary, but Mary says that she's pregnant. And if you're Joseph, what are you thinking? Huh? Say, what? What were you talking about? Now, Joseph acted with some integrity. And he said, I'm not going to make a big scene about this. I'm just going to quietly put her away. But something happened that changed what happened. It says in verse 20, but he considered this, and an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because what has been conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to name him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. Man, there's a lot happening here. In fact, but I don't want us to overlook this. This is something you got to see, okay? Is that Joseph, you got to see, Joseph experienced pain. There was pain that Joseph experienced right here in this story. A couple weeks ago, we talked about how Mary experienced pain because Mary had dreams, and her dreams were kind of dashed against the rocks. Joseph had some dreams too. Joseph had some hopes. And now his wife, who his person he's betrothed to is pregnant. That's not a part of Joseph's plan. And Joseph was told what he was going to name the baby. You're going to name the baby Jesus. In this society, the person who had the right to name a child was the father figure here. So Joseph culturally had every right to name that baby whatever he wanted to name that baby. And now this angel says, no, this is what you're going to name the baby. You're going to name the baby Joseph, or Jesus. Joseph. You're going to name him Jesus. So now he has to lay down that right too. Guys, this is really messy, painful, ugly story on the surface, right? This is what we think. We think Christmas, nativity, you got the wise men, you got the donkey, you got the manger, you got Mary and Joseph. Heck no, it was not like that. It was what's happening. It was messy. It was painful. It was unwanted. It was difficult. It was stressful. It was hard. This is a hardship in Joseph's life. And Joseph had to make a choice. What was he going to do about this? In fact, he had to make a choice that we all have to make at times in our lives. Was Joseph just going to give up and fly off the handle and say, all right, God, if this is how it is, I'm out. This is how I'm feeling. I'm done. Or is Joseph going to choose to trust? Sometimes I think we have an idealistic view of the world, which is great, right? And we get this idealistic view of the world when we're like little kids, because we watch Disney movies and like everything's going to be happily ever after and life is going to be great, right? Awesome. And then we experience real life in a broken world with cancer and sickness and pain and hardships. And our idealistic version of the world, of what we thought life would be like, is over here, but we experience this over here and they clash. And what do we do then? What do you do then when the person that's going to be your spouse is pregnant, but you haven't slept with them? What are you going to do then where culturally you have every right to do this and God says, no, I'm doing this? What do you do then? What do you do when life is hard? Well, I want to illustrate this. We got a weight bench up here. Some of y'all have been noticing this weight bench up here, and you guys are thinking like, what's going to happen with this, right? So I'm gonna have my guy Josh coming up here. Josh is gonna come up here, and I got some. I got my helpers coming up here too. Pierre and Mike, a couple strong guys. Now Josh is a pretty strong dude. Josh, you want to give us a little flex? Nah, he don't want to do that. Okay. Josh preached. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Josh is a pretty strong guy, and this barbell here is going to represent the hardships of life, right? Just like some difficulties in life, things that are hard. So, Josh is pretty strong. So give me some. Give me some reps. You can do that. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, yeah, you can rest it right there. Yeah, wasn't. Hold on. Not yet. You could do that pretty easy, right? On your own, because you're strong. You are. Now, what can happen is we can do life on our own for a while because, we're pretty strong. We got some experience. We're good. We got some ability, but sometimes life throws a few things at us. In fact, somebody tell me, what's something that life throws at us? Maybe not something super crazy heavy, but just something that's kind of harder in life. Bills, what? Illness. What's that? Flat tire. That's right. These things come, so let's put some on so life gets a little bit heavier. Josh is strong though, so go ahead, give us some reps. You can do it. It's a little bit more difficult, but he can still do it. That's right. All right, you can rest it. He's got about 4 reps there. Now, guys, sometimes life is really hard. In fact, what are some really hard things in life? Death. What's something else that's really hard in life? Divorce. What's that? Lost a job? Yep. Any in the balcony? They're sleeping. Just kidding, right? All these things. Life gets really, really hard. And then we could do it before, right? You could give me another rep real quick. You could do that before. But now life gets really hard. Go ahead, guys, load it up. All right. Ready? You're strong. You can do this. Ready? Go. Okay? Hold on. Just rest it there. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to watch Josh get crushed under the weight of this, okay? So life is heavy. Now watch this. He can try to do this on his own. Is he going to be able to do this? Yes or no? Not at all. Now he could, but he can't anymore. In fact, let's help him, guys, because he's dying. Literally. Okay. So now he can lift. Okay. Now give me another rep. Okay. Give me another rep. Okay. Now check this. We're here helping him. But he's got some responsibility to do some things too. Give me another rep. Come on. I'm right here. Okay. Give me a couple more reps. Again. Okay. Give me again. Okay. 2 more. 1. One more. 2. Okay. Slide out from underneath it. We got you. Let's put it on the floor, guys. You got it? Hey, can we give Josh a hand? Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Can't see it. No, this what happens. He's tired. He's going to be sore tomorrow. 9 o'clock service and 10:30 service. He could do it for a while. But when life got really heavy, he couldn't do it anymore. That's what he could have done. Life was overwhelming him. Things were hard. He could have been like, Pierre, Mike, Pastor Nate, no, I'm good. I got this. I'm good, I'm fine. No, he wasn't. Now, some of us realize we're getting crushed. Others of us in the room, we are getting crushed and we don't even realize it. And what's happening is we're overwhelmed under the weight of hardships. When God says, I'm right here with you if you'll let me help you. And what I didn't even bring up the fact, is that when he was laying down like this, he was extremely vulnerable too. Have hardships like this on you, and you're like flailing in life, like, oh, it's vulnerable. And this is what the Christmas story says, that God sent his son Jesus, Emmanuel, to this earth to step into our lives, to step into our situations, to help us if we'll let him. But this is what we have to do. We have to surrender. Josh had to come to a place where he's like, I can't do this. Help! You know, every time, at least for the most part, I mean, you guys can, maybe there are some other places in Scripture where that I've missed. But when Jesus was doing miracles, he wasn't doing miracles just because he had nothing better to do. He wasn't like, hey, Peter, you want to go to another planet? Bam, here we go, we're teleporting. No. There was messiness, and there was pain, and this person was hungry, and this person was sick, and this person had these things. And what Jesus did is he came into that situation, and he helped that person that would trust him, that would depend on him. You guys realize the Christian life is all about dependence. It's about dependence. And if dependence is the goal of the Christian life, then weakness is an advantage in your life. If dependence is the goal, then weakness is the advantage. And the hardship, and you guys said all kinds of difficult things, if that allows us to depend greater, then that's actually an advantage. And what God says is God says, listen, I can work in your dysfunctional situation. I can work in your overwhelmed situation, but you got to surrender. You got to let me. I have come to give you rest. Matthew 11, he says, come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Rest. Because Jesus has come. He has come. And the reason why he came was because all this was fulfilled from a prophecy years earlier. In fact, that's what the next verse says in the text. It says, this took place to fulfill what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet. The virgin will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and you will name him Emmanuel, which is translated God with us. Now, if you don't follow Jesus yet, you've been sleeping the entire time, you've been a little antsy and like, oh, this is kind of, lean in for about 30 seconds, okay? Following Jesus is actually rational. You don't have to leave your brains at the door. It's actually intellectually honest to follow him. This is why. There are scores and scores of prophecies in the Old Testament, 500 and hundreds of years before Jesus was born, that were fulfilled in Jesus with pinpoint accuracy. Pinpoint accuracy that shows that Jesus was who he said he was, and he is who he says he is, and that he matters. Jesus had been predicted. So verse 24, Joseph woke up. He did as the Lord's angel had commanded him. He married her, but he did not have sexual relations with her until she gave birth to a son, and he named him Jesus. Joseph said, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to lean into you, even when this does not make sense. And because of that, peace came to earth. Peace came with God's presence. I don't know if you guys had any irrational fears growing up. Any of you guys ever had an irrational fear growing up? Anybody? Okay. You may want to share an irrational fear that they had growing up. Bridges, okay. Anybody else? The dark, okay. So I had this irrational fear growing up, was that somebody was going to break into my house and kidnap me. Now, it was irrational because nobody had ever done that. Nobody had ever broken into our house ever. And I didn't have any friends, or I didn't know anybody personally that ever had somebody break into their house. Now, maybe I did watch some crime shows, okay? Maybe I watched a little America's Most Wanted, and that kind of did something to me. But I would always, like, at night, I'd be like, oh, man, somebody's going to break in my house. Somebody's going to break in my house. Somebody's going to break in my house. What's going to happen? And then I remembered something. That my dad's in the next room. And that my dad's here. And then my dad can beat up the bad guys. And then my dad isn't going to let anybody get me. The dad's here. Can I just say, if you're in a hardship right now and you know Jesus, Dad's here. Your Father is here to help you. And maybe just like the children of Israel of old, this is what you need to be reminded of, that he's given you his presence. Now, embracing this is not like this magic wand and now everything is better and hardships go away. Nope. But what it will do is it will change how you go through your hardship. It will change how you experience what you're experiencing when you know that he's with you. Feeling guilty? You know, his presence tells you that you're forgiven. Lonely? His presence tells you that you're not alone. Have regrets? His presence tells you that he can transform those regrets. Have grief? Jesus, he was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. Are you weary? He promises rest for your souls. Do you have wounds from abuse in the past? His presence tells us that he can heal you to the uttermost. He's with you. Why? Because he is Emmanuel and he will never leave you or forsake you. And yes, his name is Jesus, but for some of us, we need to start calling him Emmanuel because we need to remember that he's with us. We need to know that he's not just Jesus. He's not just the Son of God. He's not just a wonderful counselor. He's not just mighty God. He's Emmanuel. He is with us right now. And would you claim that? You want to have peace in the hardships of life? Trust God and understand that he is with you. And that might not make everything go away. It might not fix everything, but I'll tell you what it will do. It will change how you go through what you're going through. Let's pray together.